Tonight, a major escalation by North Korea as the most isolated country in the world launches multiple missiles. A provocative show of force. And a military response from the U.S., Japan, and South Korea. Russian assault. Cities and villages in Ukraine under siege. A small town mayor is standing firm in the face of adversity. Plus, a big idea for better Indigenous homes.
Healthier homes, homes that can breathe, that are airtight, that are very comfortable inside.
From substandard living to a safer environment, thanks to sea cans.
CTV National News with Sandy Ronaldo.
Good evening. We begin with heightened tensions on the Korean peninsula. Late today, North Korea launched a pair of ballistic missiles, the latest volley in an eye-for-an-eye show of force. Hours earlier, fighter jets and bombers from the U.S., Japan, and South Korea took to the skies. An allied response to Saturday's launch by North Korea of a long-range missile believed to be capable of reaching the U.S. and Canada. CTV senior political correspondent Glenn McGregor now on the escalation in Eastern Asia.
In an already tense region, intimidating pictures of an intercontinental ballistic missile launch from North Korea yesterday, setting the long-range Hwasong-15 from Pyongyang over 900 kilometers into the waters off the coast of Japan. And this afternoon, at least 2 more launches also landing in the Japanese Sea. The success celebrated on state television as proof of the regime's ability to launch a nuclear attack. With leader Kim Jong-un's sister vowing North Korea will turn the Pacific into a firing range, and warning of powerful and overwhelming counteraction against every move hostile to us. The Kim regime claims the launches are a response to joint military exercises. Last night, Japanese and South Korean fighter jets flying alongside long-range U.S. bombers. The missile testing raises the possibility the North could launch an ICBM capable of reaching North America. Still unknown whether their weapons program can produce a nuclear warhead to mount on it.
The multiple challenges we face today.
The test on Saturday came during a meeting of defense officials in Germany.
This is an outrageous act which escalates the level of provocation against the international community. Such act is absolutely unacceptable.
The U.S. Secretary of State also denounced the launch and called for increased sanctions.
This is yet again a provocative act by North Korea in violation of multiple UN Security Council resolutions.
Canada had previously imposed economic sanctions and today added its voice to the chorus of condemnations, with Foreign Affairs Minister Melanie Joly calling the missile tests reckless. Sandy.
Glenn in Ottawa. Thank you, Glenn. Moscow lashed out at Washington today, accusing the U.S. of inflaming the situation in Ukraine after Vice President Kamala Harris declared Russia has committed crimes against humanity in the region. It didn't stop the aggression. Today, Russia launched a massive attack on a village in southern Ukraine, killing 3 people. The area around Kherson is considered a crucial battleground as Vladimir Putin's war enters a second year. CTV's chief international correspondent Paul Workman is back in the conflict zone with the story of a beleaguered town standing tall and the defiant woman known as the unbreakable angel of Orakiv.
In a landscape of ruins, battered and punished by a year of Russian bombardment, the town of Orakiv stands out. As much for the regular pounding it endures as the stamina, suffering, and resistance of those who remain.
This is your office here.
Svetlana Mandrich is the deputy mayor, who stubbornly refused to follow when just about everybody else was leaving, staying and turning the basement of City Hall into what's known as an invincibility center, offering food and shelter to all who come, and in the process earning a nickname, the unbreakable angel of Orakiv.
Do you like that?
Of course, she says, as a woman it makes me feel more self-assured and gives me courage, because I'm also very often afraid. 14,000 people lived here before Russia's invasion. Now maybe 1,200, mostly old and poor. Volunteers deliver water in the town fire truck, under threat of attack from Russian artillery just a few kilometers away. Into dark basements where neighborhood tanks are filled and shared. And another woman named Svetlana struggles with fear and loneliness. She's 73. We're going to get through this, she says. That's what I tell my children. But mostly I'm afraid I won't see my family again. Everything above the deputy mayor's basement shelter was bombed early on, rousing a personal promise from the angel who felt it was her duty to stay. The mayor, a man, left with the others. My work is actually to help people, she says. Me and my family decided to stay until Ukraine wins. Who says she is already planning for and dreaming of that moment when the Russians are gone and Kyiv can rebuild. There's a lot of fighting ahead for that to happen, if ever. European leaders warn today that Ukraine is critically short of ammunition as the second year of this war begins, Sandy.
CTV's Paul Workman. Paul, thank you. The U.S. is also warning China not to provide Russia with lethal military aid, and comes as President Joe Biden visits Poland on Monday to mark the anniversary. Helping Russia would have serious repercussions for U.S.-China relations. Joe Biden also sent warm wishes today to former U.S. President Jimmy Carter at home in Plains, Georgia, and receiving hospice care. At 98, America's longest living president has been in and out of hospital dealing with declining health issues. Carter wants to spend his remaining time with family and is said to be grateful for the outpouring of support. Now, Jimmy Carter devoted much of his post-presidency to Middle East peace efforts. Today, Syrian state news claimed 5 people were killed after alleged Israeli missiles hit Damascus. No comment from Israel. Loud explosions were heard as missiles hit densely populated neighborhoods. Israel has previously targeted Hezbollah militants linked to Iran in Syrian-controlled areas. Now, the strikes were the first since devastating earthquakes rocked Syria and Turkey 13 days ago. And now, as the death toll surpasses 46,000, the search for survivors has been pretty much suspended. CTV's Geneviève Beauchemin reports on the implications for ongoing relief efforts.
Each red balloon is a tribute to a child killed by the earthquake. So far, volunteers have tied 1,500 to the rubble. There are thousands more homes to go. Hope of finding anyone alive is now all but gone. We wanted the search for survivors to go on for a month, says this man. But Turkey's government declared an end to much of the rescue operations, turning toward a recovery and rebuilding mission. So international search teams are returning home. The WHO says 26 million people need humanitarian aid. And help from around the world to care for survivors continues to arrive. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken surveyed hard-hit areas. He pledged $100 million more U.S. dollars, though he acknowledged getting help to victims in Syria is a major challenge.
We'll do everything we can, including making sure, for example, that there is absolutely no doubt that whatever sanctions exist on Syria do not affect the provision of humanitarian assistance.
Médecins Sans Frontières Doctors Without Borders said a convoy of 14 trucks finally entered northwestern Syria today.
Really needed relief supplies, but we realize it's also a drop in the ocean, unfortunately. Medical needs were running high. Humanitarian needs in general were very high prior to the earthquake, and that's been made all the much more worse as a result of this emergency.
The region is controlled by insurgents opposing the Syrian regime. Additional border crossings have now been opened to allow some aid to get through. In the war-ravaged region, this added calamity has left many homeless and hungry. And those fabricating tents are running out of supplies and can't meet the demand. In Turkey alone, authorities say the earthquake destroyed more than 345,000 apartments. The task of rebuilding is enormous. Sandy.
Thank you, Genevieve. The cost of repairing the damage in New Zealand is also expected to be in the billions after powerful cyclone Gabrielle roared ashore on the country's North Island, killing 11 people. More than 6,000 residents are still missing. Tens of thousands remain without shelter, power, and water. New Zealand is under a national state of emergency for only the third time in its history. Well, there's a Canadian connection to a defamation lawsuit in the U.S. Toronto's Dominion voting systems, the makers of voting machines used in the 2020 presidential election, is going up against Fox News, alleging anchors at the large cable news network knew claims of a stolen election were false, but continue to promote the lies. CTV's Richard Madden now with some revealing text messages.
New court filings reveal some of the biggest stars at conservative network Fox News privately mocked and rejected the former president's claims of a stolen election. But in public, to their millions of viewers, they still push the big lie.
You should be outraged, you should be worried, you should be concerned at what has happened in the election and the lead up to this election.
The outcome of our presidential election was seized from the hands of voters.
Internal emails, texts, and testimony from some of the network's top anchors and executives were released as evidence in Dominion Voting Systems' $1.6 billion defamation lawsuit against the network. Many privately called Trump's claims ludicrous, really crazy stuff, and totally off the rails.
We have evidence of how they flipped the votes, how it was designed to flip the votes.
Trump lawyer Sidney Powell was a frequent guest pushing the conspiracy, yet behind the scenes, host Tucker Carlson sounded the alarms. Sidney Powell is lying. It's insane. Host Laura Ingraham weighed in. Sidney is a complete nut. On air, though, a different story.
All right, these election challenges are still going on, and disturbing irregularities have been found and must be investigated to the fullest.
Their private mockery also included Trump lawyer Rudy Giuliani.
There's no question about that. Their machines can be hacked.
Host Sean Hannity writing, Rudy is acting like an insane person. Ingraham replied, such an idiot.
Is the fix already in?
Using the host's own words, Dominion says not a single Fox witness testified that they believe any of the allegations about Dominion are true. But Fox News says the court filings contain cherry-picked quotes lacking context.
Now, Dominion says Fox deliberately pushed the bogus claims to avoid losing pro-Trump viewers to rival conservative networks. This high-profile case is set for trial in April. Sandy.
All right, Richard, thank you. Richard Madden in Washington tonight. Coming up, fixing a broken trust.
4 reports a year, but any report is too much.
A frustrated outgoing ethics czar speaks up, plus the musical selections and snubs for a coronation. Cases of the highly contagious norovirus are on the rise. The Public Health Agency of Canada reporting a return to pre-pandemic levels in several provinces. In Toronto alone, there have been 5 outbreaks this year so far, and 2 remain active. Across Canada, the virus is responsible for 60% of cases of stomach flu.
This largely is transmitted by what we call the fecal-oral route, where you have, you're touching and then accidentally ingesting the virus because it can stick on surfaces.
Frequent hand washing is recommended to reduce the risk of infection. Well, the federal ethics commissioner announced his resignation this week, the same day yet another Liberal MP was found guilty of breaking the rules. Now, Mario Dion is speaking out about the need to restore the trust of Canadians. CTV's Annie Bergeron-Oliver reports.
Taking it very seriously.
After repeated violations, Canada's outgoing ethics commissioner says he's frustrated by the Liberals' ethical lapses.
I say we always take real seriously.
Since Mario Dion became the federal ethics commissioner in 2018, 11 MPs have violated conflict of interest rules. 9 of them were Liberals.
4 reports a year, which are adverse. So it's not, prima facie, it's not excessive, but any report is too much.
The Prime Minister first broke the rules in 2016 when he vacationed on the Aga Khan's private island, then again in 2019 during the SNC-Lavalin affair by pressuring then Justice Minister Jody Wilson-Raybould. Former Finance Minister Bill Morneau violated the rules 3 times during the weed charity scandal.
No one tries to find out what happens, unless it's obvious, of course, if the person is demoted or if something obvious happens, but nothing obvious has happened in any of the cases.
Dion's office has done more than 140 presentations on ethics and conflict of interest obligations, and he's recommended mandatory training for all MPs. But the opposition says awareness isn't the problem.
Got a Prime Minister who's broken the Act twice and faced no consequences. So when members look at the code, particularly in his caucus, they might not have the same level of concern.
There's been no lack of training for MPs, and no lack of opportunities for those who felt they didn't understand the Act to get more training.
But despite the opposition's focus on the issue,
is anyone over there going to take responsibility for breaking the law?
That the reality is that this side of the House is focused on helping shepherd the country through some of the most difficult times.
In the court of public opinion, ethics violations rarely resonate long.
But when the scandal goes away, when the headlines go away, the amount of intensity about people caring about it also goes away.
The ethics commissioner can hand out a maximum fine of $500, but for most offenses, the punishment is public shaming in the form of a report establishing wrongdoing. Annie Bergeron-Oliver, CTV News, Ottawa.
Still ahead, universities revamp policy to keep pace with the latest technology. We're learning more about plans for the coronation of King Charles III, specifically the musical program for the service, personally selected by the monarch himself. And he loves the work of British composer Andrew Lloyd Webber. Webber has been commissioned to write the anthem for the May 6th coronation at Westminster Abbey. He says he's honored and wants his new anthem to reflect a joyful occasion. The program will also feature 12 newly authorized pieces of music. But British superstars Adele and Ed Sheeran are reportedly said to have turned down invitations to perform at the coronation concert. A story now about artificial intelligence and how, as it becomes smarter, capable of replicating human communication, there's new concern about what it means for university students. As CTV's Vanessa Lee reports, while new technology can be a resource, AI has universities on high alert over academic integrity.
Never have words flowed so quickly and effortlessly. ChatGPT can craft everything from cover letters to essays in an instant.
Instead of looking for information, it's actually creating right in front of you.
The free artificial intelligence tool has exploded in popularity since it launched in November,
I can't find him!
with some teachers choosing to embrace it.
Right, scene 4, and just press enter, and it'll go ahead and it'll make something up.
Computer, just walk away.
It wrote an entire play for this grade 5 class.
I honestly found that pretty amazing because it's a robot. You could make it do whatever you want on there.
The chatbot is raising concerns, though, about cheating, leaving schools to wonder if what their students are turning in is in fact their work. Across Canada, universities are on high alert, including McGill, which says it is actively looking to further strengthen the protection of its academic integrity while considering ways to integrate new technologies. At the University of British Columbia, there are advisory groups in place to look at how course designs might be used to support academic integrity and how better to define and communicate to students what is and is not acceptable in their various course contexts. In France, one prestigious school is banning it outright. The director of academic affairs at Sciences Po in Paris says if students use this AI, They break the contract of intellectual honesty because the work is no longer personal or sourced. The makers of ChatGPT recently rolled out a new tool designed to help schools catch cheaters, but warned, like the content it generates, it isn't foolproof. Vanessa Lee, CTV News, Montreal.
Word today, the stand-up comic and actor who became a familiar face on the hit TV show Law & Order has died. Richard Belzer was best known for his role as the wisecracking detective John Munch. He played the character for more than 2 decades on 11 different crime shows, including Homicide, Life on the Street, and Law & Order SVU. Belzer's manager confirmed the actor passed away at his home in southern France. No word on the cause of death. Richard Belzer was 78. After the break, the better housing solution, a way to live healthier and create jobs at the same time. We leave you tonight with a solution to a housing problem for many northern communities. When there's insufficient space and substandard conditions, CTV's Manitoba Bureau Chief Jill Makashon traveled to Norway House Cree Nation, 800 kilometers north of Winnipeg, to see how a new project is changing the living landscape for roughly 8,000 people.
Norway House Cree Nation has more people than homes to house them. This is one of Manitoba's largest and fastest growing Indigenous communities. In some cases, 15 to 20 people are living in these small houses prone to mildew and mold.
People then tend to sleep sometimes in shifts because there's not enough space for bedrooms or beds to sleep on.
A couple of years ago, the First Nation partnered with a Manitoba company. Thinking outside the box, Bison Homes turned sea cans into mold-proof houses. Since then, the company has grown in size and ideas.
Healthier homes, homes that can breathe, that are airtight, that are very comfortable inside.
The exterior steel panels are filled with foam insulation. It makes the houses mold-proof and fire-resistant. Built on a steel frame with a heated cavity for electrical and plumbing, the completely contained modular homes can be transported to remote communities easily and made livable in days.
No matter what, when this house shows up, you're good. It's ready to hook up, it's good to go, and it's very quick to install.
They cost about 10% more than other ready-to-move homes, but Norway House sees the long-term benefit and a new opportunity to bring jobs to the First Nation. There's a plan to move some manufacturing here.
We have good carpenters, we have good trades, and we'd like to be involved in every form of construction.
A housing model that will also bring employment and train students, giving this First Nation the chance to build affordable, healthier homes and build on its future. Jill Makashon, CTV News, Norway House Cree Nation.
And that's our newscast for this Sunday. Thank you for sharing your weekend with us. I'm Sandy Ronaldo. Omar Sachedina is here Monday. Have a good night. Stay safe and healthy.